It's becoming harder and harder for Karoline Leavitt to do the one job she has, lying for Donald Trump. She's never been particularly skilled at it, but she's always been loyal. Lately, though, her attempts at spin keep backfiring, drawing even more attention to the corruption, the crimes, and the cover-ups surrounding this administration. And now, with Pete Hegseth effectively destroying his own career as more evidence of his criminal behavior leaks out, Karoline Leavitt's defenses are collapsing right alongside him. We're going to break down her latest meltdown. But before we do, please leave a like on this video, and if you enjoy our channel and haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. It really helps support our work. Now, before we get into Karoline Leavitt's total unraveling, I want to start with the newest leak involving Hegseth, a 2016 video that Senator Mark Kelly reacted to right here.
I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
So, Senator, what do you think of that?
Well, Aaron, I think he's correct, and it's exactly what we said. But when we said it, Pete Hegseth now, said 8 years later, or 9 years later, he says what we said was false and reckless. And I think it begs the question, what has changed? And it's pretty obvious what has changed is we have an unqualified Secretary of Defense who only cares about sucking up to this president and loyalty to this president. That's the difference. It's who's commander-in-chief. What we said was uncontroversial. The White House sort of confirmed that. They said his uncontroversial remarks, they were the same as ours. I mean, this is so ridiculous. And what the president wants to do now is intimidate us and stop us from talking, which is not consistent with our Constitution. And beyond that, Aaron, he said we should be hanged for what we said, executed for what we said. And what we said was exactly the same thing that Pete Hegseth said in 2016.
It seems pretty clear to me that the Pete Hegseth of 2016 would not exactly be sympathetic or supportive of the 2025 version of Pete Hegseth. That earlier persona is long gone, buried under many keg stands and a whole lot of reckless behavior. And honestly, there should be a real investigation into whether Hegseth had more than just a couple of G&Ts, as he loves to claim, on the night these alleged war crimes took place. But that's not the only issue here. Well, actually, it kind of is part of it. The larger problem is that this administration is completely clueless about how to handle legitimate press scrutiny. These aren't softball questions. They're real inquiries coming not only from a media that's finally doing its job, but also from Republicans in Congress demanding something Donald Trump absolutely despises: transparency and accountability. And accountability is something Trump will never accept. He hates nothing more than being held responsible. So while he's pretending to stand behind Pete Hegseth, he's clearly putting distance between them. And in doing so, he's managed to screw over himself, Hegseth, and Karoline Leavitt with his latest comments from the Oval Office.
We never heard of it. That's pretty good.
Mr. President, you released video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what happened?
I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release. No problem. You know, we stopped every boat we knock out. We save 25,000 American lives.
That's right.
And oh, so you will release the video, but why haven't you before? This is what is so really easy in debunking the clear cover-up that Donald Trump is engaged in. He's seemingly always engaged in a cover-up throughout this administration. If Trump who has so fervently defended these strikes, as Hegseth has as well, if they knew with absolute certainty, as they have claimed, who these supposed Narot terrorists were, why haven't they released that information? Why haven't they told us? Why haven't they shared their identities given their cause? They haven't. There was no planning that went into this, that there was certainly no thought before the execution of these war crimes. Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are just two of the most insecure men on the planet and are covering that up with blood on their hands. And it is Karoline Leavitt's job to respond to that, as she did so pretty poorly. Karoline Leavitt took to Twitter writing, "Liberals side with bloodthirsty narco-terrorist and crusade to get Trump." Karoline Leavitt also decided she would chime in, because why not with White House launches media bias offender tip line calls on America to hold the fake news accountable? Now, of course, we know that Karoline Leavitt, as she always is spinning up some when she says that Democrats are defending the Narot terrorist, and we love them, and it's just all nonsensical. The reason I wanted to address that second post of hers during this entire collapsing meltdown is because it's important to lay out the timeline. Remember, Pete Hegseth decided a week after those strikes that he would ban any media members who refused to follow strict state media-style rules at the Pentagon, rules dictating what they could report, where they could go, and what questions they were allowed to ask. And today, the Pentagon's Inspector General confirmed that Hegseth did endanger service members' lives through his Signalgate leaks. That much is indisputably true, but what Pete Hegseth has been trying to push for weeks and months since then is the idea that the leaks putting people at risk are coming from the press. Those so-called leaks, of course, are simply reporting. Pete, unsurprisingly, seems unfamiliar with the concept given his past employment at Fox's propaganda machine. Yet this is exactly what he wants people to believe. And it's no coincidence that just a week after committing literal war crimes, he tried to twist both issues together. So while Karoline Leavitt attempts to defend Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, she's simultaneously attacking the media because they need the public to distrust that Washington Post report detailing Hegseth's war crimes. They want people to think the press is putting service members in danger rather than Hegseth himself, the one who is actually leaking, actually endangering lives, and actually committing war crimes. That much is undeniable now. No spin from Karoline Leavitt can erase that. Especially with Democrats like Jamie Raskin holding him accountable, and he had this to say.
It certainly doesn't show any faith or confidence that they have in their ability to appeal that decision, which was categorical and blistering, that it was a violation of the appointments clause in the Constitution, and that there was no power to do what the new U.S. attorney did. But they're essentially giving the defendants the opportunity to set up a whole bunch of other objections, including the objection that this is a vindictive and a selective prosecution, that there are flaws in the grand jury process, and of course, ultimately, just that they're not alleging a real crime and that no crime took place. But that's why, to me, it's beginning to feel just like abuse of legal process, because the point is not so much what result you get, but just putting somebody through hell in order to get to the result, even if they end up winning.
Well, look, Congressman, I think you hit the nail on the head here. I have been saying for weeks that the Justice Department under this Trump administration has been re-engineered to serve the president's purposes. And when that happens to the Justice Department, we get things like this notion that they're going to take another look at James Comey and New York Attorney General Tish James. There hasn't been any new evidence. You know, it's not because there's been a development. It's because they weren't successful the first time. So, this is what the big boss wants, because it's about loyalty and what he wants and serving his purposes, not the law. So they are going to do it. So how do you combat this? I understand James Comey and AG James that they are prepared on their legal side, but you all as members of Congress, what is it that you can do? Understanding you are in the minority, but one day you may be in the majority. And I have to wonder if there will be investigations about this and other tactics that this Department of Justice specifically has engaged in.
Yeah, I mean, they're just redoubling their completely futile efforts. I mean, anybody who is not completely in the Trump cult can understand that this is a totally vindictive, selective prosecution with basically confected charges that nobody can articulate. But, you know, that's why I think about, you know, the story of the emperor's new clothes, because the people around Donald Trump just scrambled to make him believe that there's something to what he's saying, and there's not. And this is why we're getting completely absurd outcomes all over the world, including shooting down alleged drug boats as an act of war when no war has been declared, completely outside the laws of war, completely outside of due process, because they just let him entertain whatever fantasy he's got, and they just go and implement it. So the country has really got to start drawing the lines and saying, we're not going to accept this. The courts aren't going to accept it. Congress is not going to accept it. Democrats, Republicans, the media, nobody's going to accept these blatant violations of the rule of law anymore.
Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, and honestly, go ahead and add Pompeo into that mix too. Why not throw in Christine as well? All of them are in extremely serious trouble right now, and they clearly know it. At a moment when the MAGA base is fracturing and even Republicans in Congress are acknowledging how much Donald Trump is damaging their chances of political survival heading into the midterms, these people are only making things worse. Their careers may very well be on the chopping block, and they seem fully aware of that reality. That's why we need to keep applying pressure, and we will continue to do that on this show. If you want to support the work, make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a like on this video. And if you made it all the way to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.